Hey guys, Sean Hammond with PremierGuitar.com coming at you with another Gear Spotlight video, and we're talking today to Derek from Revv Amps and Joey Landreth, who is you're at your studio in Winnipeg, right, Joey?
That's correct. Yep.
We had a funny little intro to our Zoom call originally that I'll fess up. I embarrassed myself pretty bad. I didn't recognize Joey with just the mustache and the hat on. I was like, oh shit, I thought we were supposed to be talking to Joey Landreth, but this guy's also named Joey, but I don't know if it's really Joey Landreth. Anyway, it was embarrassing and we all had a good laugh. But we're here today, Derek, you're going to tell us about the new D20 amp, which is the latest head that you guys have going and are excited about. And we heard it there at the beginning. Want to tell us kind of the general gist of what's cool about it, and then we'll hear some more stuff later?
Yeah,
more
you
examples?
bet. So the D20 is one of two amps in our Alpha series line. And it's the first amp that we released that has the 2 notes torpedo embedded technology in it. So it's a very basic amp that has a lot of great features in it. So it's a single channel. It's based off of our Dynamis series, and it's meant to be a pedal platform. So yeah, very simple, 3-band EQ, 1 channel, and the big selling feature is the 2 notes torpedo embedded tech.
Nice.
So it's 20 watts, has a full reactive load box in it, but also loads IRs or virtual cabinets from the 2 note system.
Wow.
So you can play it silently at home or direct to Pro Tools, whatever you want.
It's a lot packed into a little box. I would imagine as you mentioned, being a pedal platform, it's got to have a pretty clean-ish power section that you chose, tube-wise.
Yeah, so it's got 2 6v6 power tubes, and our Dynamis head, which is kind of its bigger brother from the Pro Series, is a quad of 6v6, so that's what the power section is based off of.
Okay.
Yeah. And
now why don't we run down the front panel controls before we have Joey demonstrate a few other capabilities?
So first off, we've got a gain pot, which is a push-pull gain pot. So essentially, you can pull it and get a little bit of a boost. It brings in some caps and some other stuff that, just lets the amp kind of break up a little bit more. It gets kind of the borderline of like fuzzy and a decent amount of saturation, but nothing like what we do in the Generator series. And then you've got your treble, your mid, and your bass, and then your overall master volume.
Master volume. Okay, and I'm sure that we will be weaving in some B-roll, close-ups and all that, but right now we're just using good old Zoom footage. And so there are like 2 or 3 toggles there?
Yeah, okay, so I'll go over what the buttons are. So the first button here is the wattage selector, so you can switch between 20 watts or 4 watts. The next one is a pre-post switch, and what that does is it defeats the power section in the amp so that you can run just the preamp section. The reason for that is within the Torpedo remote software, you can do power amp modeling. So they've got 4 different power sections that you can model. So we decided to build this in a way that you could defeat our power section and run their virtual power sections just to give you, different flavors and different voicings.
Nice. Okay, and then to the right, there is a, 6-position selector for IRs?
Yeah, so you can store either virtual cabinets from 2 note system, or you can store third-party IRs. The first 6 presets that you set up in the Torpedo remote software are recallable on this 6-way selector pot. And then you've got your headphone jack and the level control for the headphones / the XLR output in the back for the Torpedo embedded.
Cool. So you guys, as you mentioned before the call, you also have Sean Tubbs working for you in Nashville, and he's famous for many things, including IRs.
Yep.
What does the D20 come preloaded with in that IR selection?
So there's 3 Revv cabinets that essentially it's a wet-dry version of each one, because 2 Notes has digital reverbs that you can emulate with a bunch of different room sounds that you can choose from. So Sean actually designed all of our presets for both the D20 and the G20. And like preset 1 and 2 are a 412 dry and then a 412 wet. Preset 3 is a 212 dry, 4 is a 212 wet, 5 is a 112 dry, and 5 is the 112 wet. And it's with different mic combinations, because in the 2 Notes system, you can choose from 8 different microphones in a list and move them around the room and do all sorts of kind of crazy stuff with them to shape your tone. So Sean spent, the better part of a week designing the presets for what he sounded best for each one of the Revv cabs. Two Notes does have some other cabs that they include with it, because normally when you buy any Two Notes product, you get at least 10 or 20 or 30 cabinets or virtual cabinets with it. So there are some other virtual cabinets that they include, and there's a list of those on our website if you want to check the other.
So a lot of different possibilities that can be loaded in place of the ones that are already loaded, right?
Yeah, you bet. I mean, never mind the fact that you can use third-party IRs, or you can make your own IRs with things like Blend IR, or I'm not sure what other software is out there that you can make your own, but any way that you can capture your own mic and cabinet, you can load it.
Okay, cool. Now, are there any other functions along the front panel or back panel that we should talk about before we have Joey demo some other sounds?
So the back panel's pretty simple. So there's this cabinet lighting port. All of our logos on all of our products change color or glow a certain color. They're lit up with LEDs. So this is just to connect a cable to your cabinet so that the cabinet badge will glow. Okay. There's MIDI in on it, because you can control all of those virtual cabinet or IR changes with MIDI. So if you're using something like Joey's using, it's Morningstar, is that right?
Yep. Right.
So like a MIDI controller, he could actually have it that it recalls different cabinets or different room reverbs or stuff like that using his switcher. The USB is for loading your virtual cabinets or connecting to the Torpedo remote. Bias test points for setting the bias for your tubes. Then you've got the balanced output to send your signal to either front of house or to your DAW or wherever you're going to send it for Two Notes. Actually, we get asked this question a lot. You can connect an FR speaker to that if you want as well, and run the virtual cabinets through that speaker. And then you've got your effects loop and your speaker output to connect to cabs. It's listed that you can use 4 or 8 ohms. A lot of people ask us why there isn't a 16 ohm option. Dan just didn't design it to have a 16 ohm option, because pretty much anybody who has a 16 ohm cabinet, you can run at 8 safely. So rather than trying to clutter up the back with more switches or more input jacks, we went with just what we thought were the most common. And then the last thing is the load box and the internal load or the speaker load. What's interesting about, or what's great about this product, in my opinion, is that whether you have a speaker cabinet connected or not, and whether you've pushed that load box button or not, the amp will automatically detect if there is no speaker cabinet attached, and will automatically engage the load box. So you won't damage your power section if you forget to hit that switch. So really what this is most useful for is if you're playing at home and you have a reference cabinet set up, you can mute it, is really what it's best for. So, yeah.
Very cool. So it's like this thing, which, by the way, it looks cool even on the back. That's, a lot of, anyway, that's neither here nor there. But it's kind of like, to me, it strikes me that this thing can be as simple or fairly complex as you want it.
Yep.
Which is very handy, of course. And I can't remember if you mentioned it on the call, but at least beforehand, I think you said that you can even disengage the power section so that you basically use the D20 as a preamp, because Two Notes software also can emulate other power sections.
Yep. So that's what this pre-post switch here does. And you'll defeat the power section in the amp. And then there's 4 different power sections that are modeled in the Torpedo remote software. And they actually have 2 versions of each. There's one that's, I don't really know what the technical differences are between them, except that one is definitely boosted compared to the other. Okay. So you'll have like just a plain 6L6 and then like a 6L6 boosted.
Okay. So you've described the D20 as a great pedal platform. Did you have a pedal engaged on the beginning intro, Joey? I don't recall.
Nope. That was just straight into the front of the amp.
Getting a little bit of grit out of it there. What should we hear first? I mean, there's so many different things it can do, and I'm sure you guys don't want to turn it into a forever long video demoing all its capabilities, but you want to show some of your favorite settings and stuff?
What I'll do is I'll just twist a couple of knobs so people can hear how much, like how clean the amp is and how much gain the amp has, and then Joey can cycle through some of his pedals to show how he would actually use it. So I'm gonna start with the gain off, pretty much.
I bet you guys get this a lot. Like the Revv look is sleek and modern, but those are super like classic gritty sounds you're getting out of it. So that's pretty impressive. I'm sure a lot of people who aren't familiar yet with your products are like, oh wow, wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. Most people know us for the generator and know us for metal stuff. So
Yeah.
when we first came out with the D20, we had a lot of people that were just like, nah, I'm good. I know what you guys do. And then guys like Sean and Joey started using them a bit more, and that definitely helped.
And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
So Joey, do you want to switch anything on the amp for how you like to use it, or just throw on some pedals and just kind of demonstrate a little more of the versatility, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. I generally just run it pretty much at noon. I generally find that with most amps, that's kind of how I run things. Like the odd, if I'm using an old Fender or something, I might cut some of the low end or boost a little bit of the top end, but I generally try to leave things around 12 o'clock. That's usually where I start. But so we'll leave the amp there now, and I'll kick on some pedals.
Okay.
So you can kind of hear what it does with the drive pedal. This is the Jackson Audio Golden Boy. This is my signature thing that I did with Jackson earlier this year. So.
Sounds pretty sweet. So we've heard a lot from Derek, but Joey, you're a thoughtful dude, as we already knew, but found out again from your recent podcast appearance with us, which thanks for doing that.
Pleasure.
What, from your standpoint as a player, we've already heard that you obviously sound great through it, although you probably would through anything, but what is it that strikes you about this amp, and anything else you wanted to, that like as Derek was describing it, that you found yourself itching to interject, but were so kind to let him have the floor?
It's just like, it's a really, really versatile amp, especially considering the price point. Like not to be certainly not a sales guy, but I use this thing in conjunction with my 2-Rock Bloomfield, which I think is a considerably different price point, and I love the way they complement each other. So it really holds its own, and it's really, like I said, it's really versatile. So it's lightweight, it's portable, it's got the 2-Note software built in. So it's a bit of a Swiss Army knife in what it's capable of doing. You can push it to get a little bit of overdrive on its own, so you could take it to a gig with just a guitar and a cable. And if you were really brave, an XLR cable to go to front house, which I probably wouldn't do exclusively, but you certainly could.
Yeah.
So it's a really great problem solver amp, and it sounds really fantastic. I think there's lots of things out there that you could throw in a backpack and say, well, here's my amp, but this thing actually sounds really, really great. So I've used it in a number of different settings, like I said, like in a stereo rig with my 2-Rock. I've also used it like as a wet dry wet scenario with like a different dry amp in the middle. It'll take whatever you throw at it, and especially in the wet dry scenario, because it's got the direct out, that sounds really, really great. That also is a nice little problem solver for not having to cart around a bunch of extra cabinets. Like it's so versatile. It'll do whatever you want it to do.
You guys were talking about before the call about what a great like fly rig amp it could be, even though
Yeah.
it's kicking. But
If it was
hey,
not mortally dangerous to fly, yeah.
someday we will again, right?
Yeah.
So the price point. What is the price point? Speaking of that,
It's $11.99 US.
okay,
Yeah.
and it's available right now. Is that right?
Yeah, available at most of your major retailers like Sweetwater, Musician's Friends, a whole slew of independent retailers. Yeah, most places in the world. So, I think we
Cool.
probably lack a little bit in like India and China compared to everywhere else, but Europe
Pole.
and US and yeah. Yeah.
Do you anything else you want to add? You want to tell people where to go online to find out more, and then we'll maybe have Joey play us out again if he's cool with that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you can go to revamps.com
Sweet.
to check it out, and or go to our YouTube channel and check out. Sean's got tons of different tutorial videos showing like different things that he does with the amp. Yeah, he does a lot with the D20. Most of the stuff that he records on his channel when he does pedal demos, that's what he's using. So, yeah, just check out anybody on YouTube that has one. Just see what
Perfect.
they do with it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And after you guys are done watching Revv videos, head over to the YouTube channel for Premier Guitar. Hit subscribe so you don't miss any more of these cool gear spotlight videos and rig rundowns, lessons, riff rundowns, hooked, all that stuff. Derek,
Yeah.
thanks for joining us. Joey, thanks for joining us. Sorry about that awkward intro. I'll keep in mind
I'll
the
never
mustache.
forgive you.
You better have it next time we meet, wherever it is. What are you going to play for us?
I'll just give you a little rundown of everything one last time here.
Sweet.